Can you hear sound now, Tyra? Can you hear sound now, Tyra? Let me know. Can you hear sound now? Okay, good. Thank you, Tyra, for letting me know that I had something still hooked up to my cell phone that I needed to take off. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. Grand rising to everybody. So that means that what I said at the beginning before everybody came on, people didn't hear it. And what I said at the beginning is anybody who's watching my replays, I always say fast forward to the meat of the content so you don't have to just sit around and wait. And I'm going to give people a few more minutes to get on. Grand rising to everybody. And again, my apologies for no sound. I didn't realize that the sound was not on. Tyra, thank you again for helping me out. Like the video for me, guys. Everybody who's on now or my regular people, I shouldn't have to ask you guys to share and like. It's like it should be customary at this point. Thank you, Tyra, again. So here's what I want to say. It looks like I have about 28 people that have tuned in. So I'll go ahead and say what it is, why I'm here. You guys know that I like to come and shed light on what is actually going on so we are aware, so we know how to pray and watch. Here's what's going on. We have extremely large numbers of people who are talking about the Texas flood. And here's what a lot of people are not paying attention to. And I want to bring attention to this because many of us may experience disasters in our area, okay, where we live. And we need to know what actually took place and what's being discussed. We can look at the news and see the death toll and see the after effects, but many of us do not know what took place prior to. Okay, a lot of people do not know what happened. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a look. And I want you guys to listen to this actually as to what happened. This is what happened. Again, a lot of people are not aware. So let's take a listen to what happened.
This is just horrific stuff, folks. The Trump regime just held a press conference in Texas. They had Kristi Noem, the Secretary for Homeland Security, hold this press conference regarding the catastrophic storm that led to flash floodings in Kerr County. The current death toll is 32 individuals.
Now, of course, it's not 32 because this was like 16 hours ago that this was recorded. I think it's up to 66. I think it's up to 66.
Including 14 children, and there are still people who are missing. The death toll may indeed get higher. So Kristi Noem was holding this press conference, and she was asked a question about why the National Weather Service was not pinging people's phones as they expected, and whether there was a failure in the federal government's responsibility to keep the people of Texas safe. Now, Kristi Noem...
Pay attention to what he just said, guys. As I always state, I'm not here to pick a side, but people were not being notified, okay, as to what was going on. How many of us know that whenever there's a disaster, there's an alert or a message that would come to your phones? So that didn't happen, okay? So we're not talking about this. This is not being discussed. And so why am I discussing this? Because this could in fact be you, be me, okay? Where this would happen to. I have about 80 something people on and I only have 2 likes. Can you please like the video for me? Okay, the live, so we can push it out. The algorithm is not going to push it out if we don't like it. Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Like the video for me and subscribe. Now let's get back to why I'm here.
Responds by saying that the technology needed to be upgraded, and she seems to be blaming former President Biden. Also, in this disastrous press conference, she almost seems to be blaming Texas and saying that Texas should be taking the lead here in emergency response, where this would be one of the prime activities that FEMA, where the federal government would indeed be taking the lead, and the federal government in normal situations would be pre-positioning their own emergency responders with state responders, and the feds would be leading the effort. We have this on videotape, so you can see the receipts that we have, but let's just go through some of the facts one by one. I want to show you this disastrous press conference, but we need to be able to fact check everything appropriately so you understand. So as Dan Coe, who was in the Biden administration, writes, the National Weather Service, NWS, is under NOAA, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The Trump regime proposed cutting 25% of the NOAA budget, about $1.6 billion, including labs that support NWS. Trump lost 600 NWS officials, National Weather Service officials, due to layoffs and retirements. Remember when Doge was doing that? And then just a few days ago, Noem was bragging about stealing money from FEMA to fund Alligator Alcatraz. Here's Noem's post. Alligator Alcatraz will be funded largely by FEMA's Shelter and Services Program, which the Biden administration used as a piggy bank to spend hundreds of millions of American taxpayer dollars to house illegal aliens, including the Roosevelt Hotel that served Tren de Agua. I mean, that's not true, but she did steal money from FEMA to fund Alligator Alcatraz. And as I said, we know that that death toll is rising now. This is quite the admission from Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Same excuse that Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, used to try to avoid blame for the FAA shortages. So just so you can make sure you can hear it, the reporter says, why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7? Was it a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe? And then Noem says, well, Trump is upgrading the technology, and then she claims that the bad technology seems to have played a role in this. Then she blames former President Biden. Watch this for yourself. Let's play it.
Why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones?
So basically, the question is the question is being asked why people were not being notified. Why didn't their cell phones ding? And here's the response.
Safe. Now, Noem responds by saying that the technology needed to be upgraded, and she seems to be blaming former President Biden. Also, in this disastrous press conference, she almost seems to be blaming Texas and saying that Texas should be taking the lead here in emergency response, where this would be one of the prime activities that FEMA, where the federal government would indeed be taking the lead, and the federal government in normal situations would be pre-positioning their own emergency responders with state responders, and the feds would be leading the effort. We have this on videotape, so you can see the receipts that we have, but let's just go through some of the facts one by one. I want to show you this disastrous press conference, but we need to be able to fact check everything appropriately so you understand. So as Dan Coe, who was in the Biden administration, writes, the National Weather Service, NWS, is under NOAA, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The Trump regime proposed cutting 25% of the NOAA budget, about $1.6 billion, including labs that support NWS. Trump lost 600 NWS officials, National Weather Service officials, due to layoffs and retirements. Remember when Doge was doing that? And then just a few days ago, Noem was bragging about stealing money from FEMA.
Let me speed through this a little.
To fund Alligator Alcatraz. And as I said, we know that that death toll is rising now. This is quite the admission from Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Same excuse that Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, used to try to avoid blame for the FAA shortages. So just so you can make sure you can hear it, the reporter says, why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7? Was it a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe? And then Noem says, well, Trump is upgrading the technology, and then she claims that the bad technology seems to have played a role in this. And then she blames former President Biden. Watch this for yourself. Let's play it.
Why was the National Weather Service not cleaning their phones before 7 o'clock day of 4th of July? We need the federal people to answer that meeting for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock. First one I heard. And I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't it a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
My background is before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well. And at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix and is currently upgrading the technology. And the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years. And that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service. That's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impact area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled, it was much more water, much like I think we experienced during Harvey, the same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continued to elevate and up their notifications. When your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government, to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible.
Now, in this next clip, Noem seems to try to shift the blame as well to Texas. And
what I want to do is stop there. I'm going to go back to the video, but I want to stop there because the purpose of my coming when I do things of this sort is to get feedback from others. And I do see where I have a lot of feedback. And so I wanted to take a look at some of that. But I did want to ask a question based on many of you who are following just as I am as to what took place. As far as people being notified, I was not quite aware that there was a concern that the people were not notified in advance about what was going on. I had no knowledge of this. Now, some of you may have knew about this, but I didn't know to this degree. I knew what was going on, right? We all did. We kind of, with anything, we know the headlines. But until we kind of dive in and do a little researching, we don't really understand and know the totality of what's going on. Again, many of you may have been informed. I don't come on with all of the answers. I simply come on as to discuss and shed light on, what took place. Is there anybody in the Texas area where this took place who's on or have family there that can kind of speak to whether or not they were properly informed as to what took place? I do see some comments where, people were speaking against what it is that he was saying. But then I showed the clip of where Christy made the comments about everything. So can somebody speak to that? Do anybody want to share based on what I just stated? Was there anybody who was aware as to that the notifications did not go out the way that they were supposed to. Again, I'm not stating that the notifications did not go out. I'm simply listening as well as you guys are, and I'm trying to get some truth as to what is actually going on. Let's see. Daniel says, I think it's interesting they didn't care this much when Hawaii and Los Angeles burned. Where was his outrage when the fire hydrants had no water? Um, TWC says it's fake news. Daniel, my grandpa watches this crap too. Stop blaming everything on Trump. So KB, you feel like they're blaming what is going on Trump? Is that what you're saying? Tim Pool tells the truth. 250-year-old country, and this is the best we can do. Sad, very sad, is what Jeff is saying. If you haven't liked the video, please like the video for me. When you like the video, it pushes it out to wake up the algorithm. If you haven't liked the video, like the video for me. It's just a click to like the video for me. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe for me. This way, when I come on, you guys will be informed that I'm on. Justice for Katie Johnston is what James is saying. Okay, I didn't realize that many people were evacuated. 850 people were evacuated, though, so there absolutely was a warning. Okay, Mr. Duck is what he's saying. He's saying 850 people were evacuated. Okay, so people, so what you're saying is if 850 people were evacuated, you feel like there was proper notification and that they were warned. Okay, Sharon says that they're also repeated that if there were 850 people evacuated. So with that being said, if there were 850 people evacuated, they were informed is what you're saying. Hello to everybody. Grand Rising if you're just coming on. Hello to everybody who's just coming on. This is something that I felt like was quite interesting and that should be discussed. Darth says, what is she saying? When you say what is she saying, are you speaking about me or somebody else who's made a comment? There was a video that I played, and many of you probably did not see the video because you're just coming on. There is information that is going forth that is saying that they did not receive proper notification in Texas as to what was taking place. Okay, they didn't receive the proper notification deemed to their cell phones. Sharon says, some people take things more serious than others. I don't. Okay, gotcha. Dar says, you are nice. Thank you. So basically, the reason why I wanted to shed light on this, guys, is because there is a whole lot of information that's going forth about whether or not Texas was properly at the initial onset notified. Again, I'm going to put my disclaimer out there because for so many reasons when I come on, people think I'm taking sides. I'm not taking sides. I'm not here to agree with what he stated or disagree. I'm here to discuss it. Kay says, my house is gone, but on the upside, I saved $15 in Fed tax. I'm from NOAA defunding. Make America Great Again. Sharon says, I don't know if there was a warning, but I do know some people will stay anyway. Correct. People make a decision to stay regardless as to what's going on. JKD, if someone didn't receive proper notification, it's because they didn't watch the weather report. Okay. Those kids would have been evacuated from the riverside. So, Kay, are you saying, and please clarify for me. So, Kay, are you saying that if they were properly notified, then the kids would have been evacuated and not been there? Let's don't go blaming someone for what nature has done. Okay. My first statement posted before I finish. Okay, Sharon. Dark, what is it you don't understand? Okay, Kay says the report was wrong. That's the issue. That's why we pay for multi-million-dollar satellites and warning systems. I can agree with that as far as, with things being in place. Here's why it caught my attention, right? So everybody's kind of posting what they think. Here's why it caught my attention. For those of you who follow me, you know that I'm from Louisiana. You know that there are issues with hurricanes here. So we have active seasons, right? And I do pay attention to the news, right? I do pay attention to when there's a storm in the Gulf. I promise I do. And I make the appropriate plans for my family, right? But here's the thing. I still kind of pay attention to what alerts come to my cell as well, right? So it was a concern for me because I said, what if there's something that happens in my area? Am I going to be notified in the proper way? And then I thought about people who do not watch the news. They don't pay attention to anything. The only thing they pay attention to is their cell in their hands. So I thought that this was a good topic if this is in fact true. Again, I don't know if it's true, but the Trump administration has defunded it to the point where the leading meteorologist in the country says he cannot accurately predict storms now. Wow. Okay, so can somebody speak to what Kay just said? Can somebody speak to what Kay just said? Okay. The meteorologist in the country says he cannot accurately predict storms now because of the defunding. Can somebody speak to that for me? I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that it's wrong. But can somebody speak to that? Do other people have comments on that? No flash flood warning. Okay, so there was no flash flood warning for that area? Like what are we talking about? I played a video, Dark, at the beginning. We're actually talking about Texas. Even if you missed the video, I'm simply speaking to the fact of that there's information that's going forth that the people in Texas were not properly notified beforehand as to what took place with the flood. Plain and simple, that's it. And we're discussing it. Okay, Jay Foster says the water was already high on Thursday. Jay Foster, are you from the area or you just simply followed it closely? Lisa Brouchard says that's correct. And whether a weather radio is really good to have, they take batteries too. Your tone and speech sounded familiar. Then you said you were from my home, Louisiana. I'm sure these cuts have effects. Okay, yes, I'm from Louisiana, and I pay attention to Blanco. I pay attention to what affects me. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend, okay? I pay attention to what affects me. We're supposed to, okay? I'm not going to get off into the big, beautiful bill. I'm going to talk about that probably a little later today when I come back at about 7 or 7:30. But as far as that bill is concerned, I'm paying attention to what will affect me and what will help me. So when I saw this, I'm all eyes and all ears. Why? I live in Louisiana. I want to know and be assured that I'm going to be properly notified so I can make the preparations that I need to in order to be ready in the event of a disaster, right? I am a woman of faith. I believe in a higher power, which is God. So, of course, I make certain that things are in place there, but I also have to prepare naturally as well. So this piqued my interest. Okay? Are Trump's evil intentions in the room with you now? If you're speaking to me, the only thing that I have in the room with me now is the Spirit of God. Okay? That's all I have in the room with me. And then whatever it is that's around me, my notebook, my computer, and so forth and so on. Okay? I'm from a part of the country that has never had FEMA disaster declaration, so I don't have any stake in this and actually contributes more to the government budget than it receives. Okay, Kay, I can respect that. Dismantling of agencies like NOAA and its components like the National Weather Service, which could negatively impact weather forecasting. Okay, that's a great point. Facts are like holy water to vampire. Why to make it political? I just want to see everyone taken care of for the things we can control. Early warnings and such was one of them in past administration. And so, again, I want to reiterate and I want to state there's information that is going forth that they were not warned in enough of time, a early warning. No one has negated or said that there was no warning that went forth. We all saw that there was a warning. We know warning went forth. All of us can look at that. We know that. But I just had a concern, especially since we're in hurricane season here in Louisiana. I just had a concern for me, okay? Whether or not there was enough of notification to go forth in enough of time. And here's why. Timing is everything. You know, people work. You say, okay, well, I'm going to go to work today. And when I finish my 8 hours or 10 hours, however long you work, I have enough of time to get back to prepare, you know, for what's going on. Or I won't be able to go to work today. I need to evacuate and get my family out. Timing is everything, right? So it's just a concern for me whether or not there was enough of time to prepare. And we all know that there has been a lot of cuts that has taken place. So did the Texas people in fact receive notification in enough of time? The question is not if they received notification. Come on, we know they received it, but the question is, did they receive it in advance with enough of notification? Clearly, we can kind of just sit back and point the fingers if we're not a part of what took place. My heart goes out to them. My prayers are with them and with their families, right? But I don't want to sound insensitive, right? Because my heart is with them, but I'm now looking to the future as we move forward. Okay, that's where I'm at with this. I only mention this to shed light on it, but as we move forward for the rest of the country, right? Do we have the proper things in place to notify people with an advance notice that they can prepare? Okay, do we have here in America things in place where the people are going to be notified with enough of time to prepare? We can't do anything about Texas except for to pray, right? That's all we can do at this point, and our heart is with them. But what do we do moving forward as far as how do we know here in the other parts of America that people are going to be properly notified, right? And if in fact they did or did not notify Texas in enough of time. That's why I'm here. That's my concern. That's my concern. Um Ralph says, make sure you remember that Trump is president now. I'm not certain if that's for me, Ralph, or if it's for someone else. But whomever it's for, the statement that was just made, we all are aware that President Trump is the president of the United States. Anybody who's not aware of that, they've been under a rock. Okay? We all know he's the president. Sharon says, are we listening and paying attention? You are part of the problem. That's how we wound up in this situation right now, because everybody's thinking about what affects me instead of what affects us, what good for our country. Joseph, I pray that I provided clarity in my statement that I just made, as far as when I stated America, okay, and that this has happened for Texas and our heart is with them. But as we move forward, we need to make certain that something is in place here in America, should a disaster take place, and people have enough of time to prepare. So hopefully I made the statement that would take care of the comment that you just made, and it clarifies and explains everything, okay? Okay, Darth, I did, when you say bro, I'm assuming that you're talking to somebody else, because I'm a lady, so I'm assuming that you're speaking to somebody else that's on here. Um, let's see. Guy, all you have to do is look at the weather reports. They were inaccurate. Okay, so what you're saying is, Kay, the weather reports were inaccurate. It's not like they just missed the flood model. They are using to depopulate, been planned decades ago. Okay, eye candy. Both were warning about these storms. So, Guy, there was proper warning, is what you're saying about the storm? Do your own research before discussing. Ignorant minds don't persuade people. Kevin, I'm not certain what that comment is for. The beauty of being in America is that people with wisdom and people who are not small-minded can come together and have good, wholesome, intelligent conversations about things that are taking place in the country in which they live, and we can shed light and give our opinions as to what is taking place, okay? So it has nothing to do with anything of what it is that you've just stated, okay? It's called healthy discussions, something that a lot of people who are small-minded cannot do. Brody says America is doomed. We were abandoned, did for ourselves. Kim, when you said we were abandoned and did for ourselves, are you from Texas? And I'm a wait on from you if you are from Texas, because it's nothing like being able to hear from somebody who's from the area. If you haven't liked the video, please like the video for me. Like the video for me. And here's what I want to ask. If you're new here, please let me know that you're new, because the people who are not new, who have been with me, you guys know how we do it. We come and discuss what it is that's going on in the news, and we give our opinions and we give feedback. We're not here for no other reasons. That's the beauty of being able to discuss things. You can't go on other people's platforms and do this. They either report you or they say something negative to you. That's the beauty of discussion. Why can't people discuss things? Like, why can't we discuss what is going on? That's all we're doing. Nobody's here picking sides and saying, okay, you know, they were right, they were wrong, they did this, they did that. I'm here to have a healthy discussion about what has taken place. That's it. You're giving feedback to what took place. Okay? If you're new, I pray that you enjoy this healthy discussion. That this is what I typically do, right? I come and I discuss what is going on. You are supposed to pay attention to what is going on around you so you can make the necessary adjustments. Somebody made a comment in reference to that I'm speaking about me. Well, when I come and speak what is taking place for me, you're supposed to take a look and evaluate and observe as it pertains to you as well and say, okay, when this video, this live is over, do I need to go do some more research and look into what she's talking about? Do I have family members that this can possibly affect? Do I have people in the South who deal with the hurricanes and they can possibly be flooded? Are they going to be notified in enough of time? Or will they have a short window to prepare? So the purpose is to come and shed light. We discuss it. You give feedback. And if you care enough, you go dive in a little deeper and do the research to see what's really going on. It's healthy. For those of you who are new, please subscribe for me. For those of you who still have not liked the video, go ahead and like the video for me if you don't mind. Go ahead and like the video for me. If there are people on who are just getting on and you would like for me to play the video again, I would definitely not mind. It takes about 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute video. I played a 3-minute clip. The video is like 23 minutes, but I only played 3 minutes of the clip. Okay, condescending. She's communicating to an audience with varying levels of morality and personal good judgment. I've been known to come on and I've had healthy discussions and I've had the majority of the people, you're never going to get 100%. I've had the majority of people to say to me that they are pleased and like the fact that I come and dive into and have a healthy discussion about a topic that is at hand in the moment, and it makes them take a closer look at it, whereas before they kind of looked at it at the surface and didn't pay a lot of attention to it. This being notified of a disaster in a timely manner is important. Again, for those of you in the back of the room, okay, who may have not heard what we heard at the front of the room, no one is saying that they did not or that they did properly notify in enough of time. We're discussing it. Okay, we're discussing whether or not Texas received enough of time to prepare for the disaster, okay, the flood that was coming. We're discussing this. We also know in advance, because of everything that's in the news, a lot of the departments have been defunded, okay, and there have been cutbacks, right? Which could possibly play a role in why they may have not been notified in enough of time. That's the beauty of discussion, okay? That's it. Okay, I have, I think, 2 people, 3 people. So I have a couple people who are saying to play the video again so they can hear exactly what took place. Okay, I'm from Texas. We knew these storms were coming because they always come this time of the year. We have protocols in place. My mom is super happy because all those trees that have been under drought. Okay, so somebody from Texas saying that they were notified. So you were notified that the storm was coming. So I'm going to play New from Pittsburgh. So I'll play it again since I have people who have asked me to play the video again. So I'll play it again for those of you who are just coming on, so you can kind of see what's going on and what it is that we were discussing.
This is just horrific stuff, folks. The Trump regime just held a press conference in Texas. They had Kristi Noem, the Secretary for Homeland Security, hold this press conference regarding the catastrophic storm that led to flash floodings in Kerr County. The current death toll is 32 individuals.
Now, of course, we know that it's not 32. It's now up to 66. So I want to fact check that. I think it's up to about 66.
14 children, and there are still people who are missing. The death toll may indeed get higher. So Kristi Noem was holding this press conference, and she was asked a question about why the National Weather Service was not pinging people's phones as they expected, and whether there was a failure in the federal government's responsibility to keep the people of Texas safe. Now, Kristi Noem...
This is the part that has been the most discussed and what we're talking about. The pinging of the cell phones in enough of time, okay?
Responds by saying that the technology needed to be upgraded, and she seems to be blaming former President Biden. Also, in this disastrous press conference, she almost seems to be blaming Texas and saying that Texas should be taking the lead here in emergency response, where this would be one of the prime activities that FEMA, where the federal government would indeed be taking the lead, and the federal government in normal situations would be pre-positioning their own emergency responders with state responders, and the feds would be leading the effort. We have this on videotape, so you can see the receipts that we have, but let's just go through some of the facts one by one. I want to show you this disastrous press conference, but we need to be able to fact check everything appropriately so you understand. So as Dan Coe, who was in the Biden administration, writes, the National Weather Service, NWS, is under NOAA, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The Trump regime proposed cutting 25% of the NOAA budget, about $1.6 billion, including labs that support NWS. Trump lost 600 NWS officials, National Weather Service officials, due to layoffs and retirements. Remember when Doge was doing that? And then just a few days ago, Kristi Noem was bragging about stealing money from FEMA to fund Alligator Alcatraz. Here's Kristi Noem's post. Alligator Alcatraz will be funded largely by FEMA's Shelter and Services Program, which the Biden administration used as a piggy bank to spend hundreds of millions of American taxpayer dollars to house illegal aliens, including the Roosevelt Hotel that served Tren de Agua. I mean, that's not true, but she did steal money from FEMA to fund Alligator Alcatraz. And as I said, we know that that death toll is rising now. This is quite the admission from Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Same excuse that Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, used to try to avoid blame for the FAA shortages. So just so you can make sure you can hear it, the reporter says, why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7? Was it a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe? And then Kristi Noem says, well, Trump is upgrading the technology, and then she claims that the bad technology seems to have played a role in this, and then she blames former President Biden. Watch this for yourself. Let's play it.
Why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7 o'clock data?
For those of you who cannot hear, his question to Kristi is, why wasn't their cell phones dinging before 7? That's the question that she was asked. I know the volume is low, but that's his question, and then she's going to respond.
We need a federal legal answer that meeting for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock. First one I heard, and I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't it a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
And he's asking, was it a failure from the government to not notify them before 7?
My background is before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well, and at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix, and is currently upgrading the technology. And the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA, that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years. And that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service. That's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impact area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled, it was much more water, that, much like I think we experienced during Harvey, the same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continued to elevate and up their notifications. When your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government, to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible.
Now, in this next clip, Kristi Noem seems to try to shift the blame as well to Texas and seem like Texas is the one running the
So for those of you who wanted to see the partial clip that I showed, no one is here negating whether or not Texas was notified. If I can repeat and be redundant again on purpose, no one is negating whether or not Texas was notified. We all can hear from looking at the news, or we can read from reading the news. Texas was informed. Okay? We all know this. The question that I have for me and my family, and for the rest of America in other states, when there is a disaster, are we going to be notified in a prompt manner as early as possible to prepare for what is to come? Because according to this, okay, they're stating that their phones did not ding, okay, in enough of time, and that they were not properly informed. Am I agreeing with that? I'm not agreeing. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just simply bringing the information, and we're discussing it because I thought it was a great topic to discuss and have healthy feedback, and that we all could act like adults, because there is no one here, okay, that is not an adult. Everybody here is an adult. And we would have enough of intelligence to have a healthy discussion about what's going on. The only way you cannot do that is if you're small-minded and you're not used to having healthy discussions. I know a lot of people are not, but that's not the case for me. I did not come on with all of the answers. I did not come on to fact check anyone, okay? Am I clear on that for those of us who just kind of keep missing what it is that we're doing here? Okay? Okay, Guy says a lot of times AI actually is sending you those pings. Okay, okay. So let me go back up to me showing the video. Deal with it. This is on you. You wanted the big, beautiful bill on it and all the evil that will come of it. Okay, Cloud Sugar. Dana, We hear about these devastations and no follow-up tornadoes. Texas is just the newest one. There is no help coming. Okay. JKD, stop blaming people for nature. We can make weather disasters. You can't argue with the models. The European and American models fairly agreed, and it's the purview of science, not politics. It's called Proper Tech. We had to warn people of the severity of the storms. Smart people. That's actually is true. Saying this is us blaming people for nature. It's like jumping into an unreinforced trench and being caved in, despite OSHA saying don't do that. Okay, thank you, Kay, for that comment. So if you lower funding, you get less accurate data. So the consequences of lower funding equal lower tech and worse forecasting. Thank you, Cloud Sugar. Faith says they have come out and said offices were vacant due to the short staff due to cuts. I didn't know that. See, that's the reason why I like to come on, to hear other people feedback and other people information. I wasn't aware of that. They were notified. Actually, I was notified and I live in Houston. Okay. The painting guy. I appreciate that comment. And we're not negating whether or not they were not notified. I really believe they were notified. I do. The question is whether or not they received the proper notification that they're supposed to prepare properly. She is like one day away from having to blame Biden for this. Trump did all of this. He don't care for those poor young girls. You know, my heart goes out for the young girls and what happened. I just, my prayers are with those parents who, don't have their children. We have to continue to pray for them. I can't begin to imagine. I don't know how that feels. And so for those of us who has any, if you have any compassion in your heart, say a prayer for them. Those parents, they have to be devastated. They have to be. I can't even imagine how they're coping with what's going on. And I'm not taking away from the fact of people who homes have been flooded and they've lost stuff. They can replace that stuff. But these are people who have who don't have their children, and they're having to deal with that. I couldn't imagine, the loss of my children, and I know people who have experienced that can attest to that. Is very difficult. So my heart goes out to them. Again, not minimizing the people who have lost stuff and lost material things, but we have people who have lost their children, that they'll never see again. No, we just have a demented cult leader as president. Remember when I'm assuming that's redrew the hurricane map with a Sharpie? No, I don't remember that. Maybe some other people on here may remember that. I don't remember that. Money has been going to self-serving political actions rather than maintaining our nation. If y'all were paying attention, the sick person has the syndrome, but okay, yeah, y'all make us sick. Let me go down so I can get to some of the other questions. I'm not sure how they're doing, but they got my prayers. I do know Texas sent help. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate that. I pray that that's the case for everybody. I pray that Texas has everybody's prayers. Texas should not have to ask us for their prayers. They're going to need prayers, especially these parents who no longer have their children. What can be done to get weather help back? I'm not certain. Oh, good. Who needs actual help by people that they got your prayers. The hateful man who voted that they don't get help. God bless Texas, our brothers and sisters. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who made a comment as it relates to prayer. I believe they had to pull from different resources to help them, but it was the community ultimately that saved North Carolina. So basically, pulling together locally is what you're saying as to actually what helped. This administration took and ripped apart all the safety nets we have in America, and it's showing the outcome of this. And then, like a 5-year-old, blame TGE, previous administration, period, poor babies, and other lies. I'll say this: the alerts on phones have been worked since Orange been in president. Crispy speaking facts. Money has been going to self. Okay, I think I read that one already. DEI streamer. So again, I just wanted to shed light, you guys, on actually the notification timing. It was no negating that the people were not informed. I just wanted to hear feedback from you guys as to whether or not there was proper notification with enough of time for the people of Texas to prepare. If no one's listening to anything that I've stated, please, there was no information ever stated by me that they were not notified. We are aware that they were notified. My question was whether or not they were notified in enough of time. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. I was here to receive feedback from you all and what your opinions were. How do you feel about moving forward? Do we have enough of staff, and do we have the proper things in place to do what we used to do? Where we notified in enough of time, we responded in enough of time, we took care of the people in America in enough of time. Do you feel like we're still in a healthy place, or do you feel like we possibly could have regressed because of the defunding? Okay, it's called a healthy discussion. No one's here. Not one time have you heard me say anything bad about the president of the United States or how things are currently being handled. I did not say anything negative. Why? I don't have anything negative to say. I'm here to discuss what has happened. It doesn't matter if you voted for President Trump or not. You cannot change that he's the president, right? So he's the president of the United States. We have things that are happening. We are supposed to pay attention to what is happening, whether you agree or disagree. It is healthy to pay attention so you can act accordingly. Who sits back and say, oh, we have a group of people, I hate the president. Then we have a group of people, oh, I love the president. We have a group of people, oh, he's doing extremely well. Then you have a group of people saying he's doing poor. He's not doing a good job. Regardless as to how you feel about any of what I've just stated, you have to make certain that you're paying attention so you are taken care of. You cannot make certain that you're taken care of if you're not paying attention as to what's going forth. It's plain and simple. It's nothing complicated about it. We can sit here all day and talk about all of the good that the president is doing. We could sit here and talk about all of the bad that the president is doing. We could sit here for hours and do that. But ultimately, I want to ensure that we're able to come on my platform, on my channel, and have healthy discussions about what's going on. If you can't do that, you may need to take a look and reassess you, right? What individual can't have a healthy conversation? It's called disagree to agree. Those are healthy debates. Those are healthy discussions. If you live in America, why can't you sit down and have a healthy discussion about what's going on? There are many things that we can talk about. The most big thing that has happened is the big, beautiful bill, right? And I am going to come and talk more about it. I did talk about it. I am going to talk more about it. But today, when I got up, this was something that I looked at and paid attention in the news, and I said, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what other people are saying about the disaster of what happened in Texas. I wonder if they feel like the people were notified in enough of time. Let me go live and see what the people have to say. The news is going to show what the news wants to report. But when we come and engage like this, we get to be free and say what it is that we feel. So that's the reason why I love it and I like doing this, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So anybody who has a problem with it, they have the right and the freedom of not participating. But you have to ask yourself, why can't you have a healthy debate about something? Regardless if you voted for the president or not, regardless if you feel like he's doing a good job or bad job, why can't you have a healthy discussion without being biased? Let's see. I'm assuming that there is a discussion that's going on that I didn't catch based on what I'm kind of glimpsing through. That's how Hitler got power. It's called compliance. Although I've never been here before or do I know you or your views, I will speak up when, hey, come for you because they will. I'm a Trump supporter. Y'all can't blame the man for this. LOL, yes, we can, because correlation is a factor in the current situation. Anyone thank Google because it is Google and Android that was giving us this tech. Okay. I'm assuming that, as I stated, that there's a conversation that's going on outside of me. I love that the bill gives $50 billion funding to rural hospitals. They have suffered the last for years to provide health care without getting paid for their services and are in danger of closing. Lockwood, I do appreciate that comment that you just made. It's all in the news. There are some rural areas that I know about as far as hospital, and to my knowledge, an area where I grew up as a child, I grew up in a very rural, kind of country area, and two of those hospitals can, in fact, be two hospitals that will close, and that's very disheartening to me as I look upon that, because I don't know what the people are going to do. And it's an unfortunate situation, but what we have to do is what we're doing now. They need to have healthy conversations about that in those particular areas and those people. And I just don't feel like it's healthy to kind of just continue talking about how bad and how bad and how bad and how bad and how bad it is. I just feel like the people in the areas that this is taking place, need to have some healthy conversations and come up with plans of how they can possibly pool together should there be an emergency to get the people out. So the people in that area need to come together. And again, I don't have all the answers. That's just something that I'm speaking to for the area that I grew up in, that's very rural. And there's like two hospitals, I think about 10 or 15 miles from each other. And so it's been there for years. And they're concerned. They're very concerned. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. If you're new to the channel, if you don't mind, would you please subscribe? And here's what happens when you subscribe. We come on and have healthy discussions. I believe that anything that someone would bring to me and they shed light on something and they're not biased and they're not telling me how to think and how to feel, I can respect those individuals, because I'm not here to tell people how to think or how to feel, but I am here to shed light on things that takes place, right? So it's like I want you to pay attention and look at, there's something that happened in Texas, okay? And I don't know whether or not it was handled correctly or incorrectly. I don't know, right? But with a little more research, we can get to a possible answer as to what happened. But ultimately, I'm of the concern of, for me and for my fellow Americans, right? If we have enough of things in place to make certain that we're properly notified so we can prepare properly. Okay? I don't know if we do, and I don't know if we don't. That was the purpose of coming, so we could discuss it. So I'm going to dive in a little deeper, right, to kind of see what's going on, and I hope that you would do it as well. It's not going to be given in the news. The news gives us things that are kind of selective. We have to go and do the research and dive in for ourselves. And so that was the purpose of coming on, so you guys would do this. Timing is everything. We can try to sit here and pretend. Timing is everything. We don't have to make it super deep. We can just use common sense. If we're notified in enough of time that there's something about to happen as it relates to weather or some form of disaster, we may not have time to go to work and then come home and prepare. We may need to skip out on work and call off and say, hey, I'm not coming because there's something that is about to hit. And I have to pick up my mother-in-law. I have to pick up granny. I got to make provisions for the pets. And I have to get out. So timing in preparing is crucial. We can try to sit here and negate that. So if I'm notified, okay, you notified me, but am I notified in enough of time? That's the question. That's the question. Okay? So I'm going to say what I always say when I come on, and that is, we have to make certain, okay? It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, your race, your gender, whatever your preferences may be. If you live in America, the one thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to take a side. I'm going to take a side. I have not been biased this entire life. But the one thing I always say when I come on and I take a side, and I'm going to take a side of God, and that is, can you guys please remember to say God bless America? We used to say it all the time. We don't say it anymore. If you live in America, is it asking too much of you to say God bless America? Is that asking too much? Can somebody give me some feedback? Am I asking too much for us to get back into the habit of saying God bless America. We used to say it all the time. We don't say it anymore. Regardless if you voted for President Trump or not, regardless if you like what he's doing or not, what does that have to do with you saying God bless America? I remember way back when we had all of the other presidents, we said God bless America. Like, the country needs God's help. So why can't we just simply get back to God bless America? It's not, it's like we want to have our own opinions, and we want to be right, and we want to be this, and we want to be that. I always close with this. I'm closing and I'm about to get off. But here's the thing. How can we have so much to say and pick a side of what's going on, but we can't say God bless America? Come on, y'all. You guys remember when we went to the football games and we went to the big events, they would have the big signs up and they would have the American flag, and then they would have at the top of it, God bless America. Come on. How difficult is that when people would get up and give a speech with the government, with the local government, at the community meetings? They would say, God bless America. What happened to the flag of America and then saying, God bless America? What happened to that? And somebody just put Make America Great Again. Nobody's negating that. Okay? The problem is we can't get back to what we used to do. Why don't we do that anymore? God bless America. God bless America. Regardless, Cloud Sugar, that anybody says, okay, there is nothing that is wrong with saying God bless America. We used to say it all the time. The many that will cry, Lord, Lord, is the Make America Great Again crowd. Regardless as to if anybody agrees with me, I don't need anybody to agree with me. I did not take a side on this video. I don't take a side when I come on. I come on to shed light and to open the eyes of people. That's why I come on. The only side that I took in this video, and I'll continue to take, is the side of we need to get back to saying God bless America. Openly, in the public and in private, we need to get back to saying God bless America. And I'm not going to apologize for that, okay? Because all of the disasters and everything that's going on, let's just take a look at Texas. You don't think Texas need God to bless them? With everything that's currently going on with Texas, you don't think Texas needs God to bless them? Hello from Germany. How are you? Hello from Germany. Thank you for coming on. Don't apologize to anyone. It's your show, is what Truthfully said. Thank you, Truthfully. And you are right. Thank you. I appreciate that. We need God to bless America, and we're way away from that. We're so busy quoting other slogans and saying other things. Why don't we proudly say God bless America? You can quote the slogans. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. That's your prerogative. But no slogan comes before God. We need God to bless America. I'm done, you guys. I'll be back a little later, about 7 or 7:30, because I have another topic that I feel like we need to discuss. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I know a lot of people have gotten off because they have things that they have to do on a Sunday. And I try to come in a window when people are not busy. But if you look at my channel and you go back and you look at the things, we've had some healthy conversations over here and debates. I absolutely love when we come on and we're able to talk about these things. If you subscribe, you'll be notified when I come on, and then you can peep in and see if it's a discussion you want to be a part of, or you peep in and say, hey, I don't want to be a part of what she's talking about today. But I can assure you that this platform is different from the other platforms, because when you get on the other platforms, and many of you won't admit this, but it's the truth, They push their values and viewpoints on you. They push whoever is in office on you. If you've paid attention, I have not said anything either way as to whether or not I'm supposed to be for the president or if I'm against the president, if I voted for the president or if I didn't vote for the president. You know why? That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to push off my viewpoints or my values on anyone. I'm here to have a healthy discussion. So like the video if you haven't liked it for me. Go ahead and like it for me. And again, subscribe so you know when I'm coming on, okay? I thank everybody for their input and who gave information. I see individual acts of kindness that shows Americans do care about their neighbors. I understand why some people are rejecting America when you see the cruelty in the White House. Hello from Oakland, California. Hello. Please pray for San Antonio, Texas. It's seriously flooding and my nephew is there. Walter Edmondson, praying for you. Love, Auntie. Oh, wow. So I know I asked people to God bless America. So I asked our God to please touch and take care of the family in San Antonio of her nephew Walter. I pray and ask the Lord that he would make a way out of no way. I pray and ask that the Lord would take away all the anxiety and the stresses. I pray and ask that the Lord would handle every situation that is going on as it pertains to housing, and people are now in shelter, and families are in some cases being separated. Whatever the issues may be for this family in San Antonio, Texas with her nephew Walter, I pray that everything works itself out and that God would bless them like only he can. It's in the name of Yeshua that I pray. And this is for all of the other people as well. But this particular person asked, and so that's the reason why I prayed. I remember when no one told who they voted for. Truthfully, you're absolutely right. But now it's like a badge of honor to let everybody know who you voted for. At least we have a president now who answers actual questions. It was a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming on. Hating the president is an anti-American. Sorry, bud. I enjoyed speaking with y'all. Thank you, guy. I'm praying for those who are lost and those trying to fight for survival and those rescued. I pray in God's name. Amen. I'm with you, Selena, if I said your name right. I'm with you. Time to Stand said, I love Trump. Time to Stand, I love Trump as well. I love Trump. I love Vance. I love everybody that's on here. I love Christie. I love the administration. I love everybody. May I share why? Because I serve a higher power. His name in the King James Bible is Lord, but if we do the research, it's Yahweh. And so because he is love and God, we need to bless America. I love everyone too. So thank you for sharing that. We should absolutely love Trump and everyone. We're not supposed to discriminate and have any hate in our hearts. So absolutely, I love him as well. Thank you for putting that there. Thank you so much. We love everyone. I'm done, you guys. I'll be back on as I stated. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Again, we're praying for Texas. We ask that God will cover every family in Texas who has been affected. We're asking the Lord for people who did not have insurance and people who do not know what they're going to do. And people are just saying and reaching out that this was such a devastating disaster and they're left with nothing. And they're just like, what are we supposed to do? How are we going to make it? I'm asking that our God would hear their prayers, look at their situation and see what's going on, and that he would help them in some way according to what they need. All of them don't need the same. So we're asking our God to intervene in some way to help them with their current situation as to what's going on, because all of them don't need the same thing. The most important thing that I'm asking of him for Texas is that he would keep their minds Okay, because if they lose their mind or they're stressed and all over the place, that can be a disaster, because without your mind you can't function to do what you need to do. So we're asking that God would keep the minds of the people in Texas. Okay, we're asking God to touch the heart of the leaders and people who are in place to do right by these individuals. And last but not least, I'm asking that God would help the parents who no longer have their girls. We know that the girls, okay, the situation that took place. So we want God to take care of those parents. We can't begin to imagine how it feels to never be able to hold and hug and tell your child that you love them. And so we want our Lord to take care of those parents as well, right? And that they will be okay. And that's my prayer for Texas. And I say amen. And again, thank you guys for rocking with me. And for those of you who heard the prayer, if you're in agreement, all you have to do is say amen. And you've prayed with me to God to help those people. They need our prayers. Texas needs our prayers. There's a lot going on in Texas. What if that was you? We can't be selfish. We can't be selfish. What if it was you? Amen. Amen. Say amen. Say amen. What if this was you? You would want someone to pray for you. Let's not be selfish. Are we aware that there's going to be a lot of uncertainties? Are y'all paying attention? There's a lot going on here in America. Right now, Texas is going through. Okay, what about the next state? Okay, so let's be there for them. Let's say amen. If you're saying amen, you're in agreement with it, right? That's all I had. I have vowed to not come the way that I typically come. I'm not doing business as usual over here. I have nothing to do with what other people are doing, but I'm going to do this the way that it needs to be done. People are up on Sundays and they hooping and hollering and running around in church and talking about Bible stories and not really doing what needs to be done. It's going to be different over here, and I'm going to have the help of the Lord to help me to facilitate to do what I need to do. Okay, and I feel like I've accomplished what I needed to do today. Okay, so you guys be blessed, and thank you guys for rocking with me. I love you guys.